Hey, it's V with 85th and Wade. Thanks for joining me today. Now, in this episode, I am going to do a review of my experiences with two patterns. Of course, we are in the midst of hashtag So Romp Jump Play 22 challenge. It's a challenge for everyone to sew up a romper, a jumpsuit, a play suit, a coverall, overalls, dungarees, to your heart's desire over the next few weeks, and so that we can reveal them all on National Jumpsuit Day, which is October 26th. So I wanted to give you another option. Maybe if you have this pattern or if it goes on sale in the next couple of weeks, you can pick it up and get it sewn up and reveal your version on October 26th. Now, the pattern that I am speaking of is McCalls 7936. I have a couple notes, so I will be looking down to make sure I get all this information in. I actually sewed up view B. Now this pattern does have 4 different views. It's a shorts romper version, a couple of culotte versions, and then a long ankle length. So I sewed up view B, which is the culotte. However, I did make just one minor tweak to their version, and I'll talk about that as we get into the pattern. Now, as far as sizing, this pattern goes from an extra small to an extra large. I'll put all of the sizing information on the screen for you. In terms of fabric, this is for woven fabrics. I used a very lightweight fabric. It's actually a novelty cotton from Joann Fabrics. It's called Admiration. I'll leave all that information in the description box below, as well as a link. I did catch this on sale and then with a coupon, so it came out pretty economically. I think it was around $5 and some change a yard, and I believe I used anywhere from 2.5 to 3 yards of fabric for this. Now, when I say I tweak the pattern, it's only because in view B, it doesn't show a belt. However, I used a belt for my version. And so while I used 6 pieces of the patterns, your mileage may vary depending on if you want pockets or not, if you want to use a belt or not. So it can be as, as complicated or as simple as you want to make it. But I used a total of 6 pattern pieces. As far as interfacing, there is interfacing in this one for the facings themselves. So you cut the 2 front facings as well as a back facing. So you have those 3 pieces that you need to interface. Again, it's going to add more time, to your actual construction, but just something to be aware of. And then as far as steps, there's a total of 34 steps in the instructions. However, for view B, adding the belt, you need a total of 27 unique steps. Now, I believe if you do just view B as it is intended, so without the belt, I think you can shave off about 6 or 7 of those steps. So you'll have anywhere from 20 to 27 steps. And if you are one of those folks that, kind of sew in chunks of time, this is something where I see folks can just say, okay, I'm gonna do steps 1 through 4 today and 5 through 10 tomorrow, or let me just try to get in 1 or 2 steps. And so that's why I go by steps and not necessarily time. I'm a very slow sewist. I will admit that. So for me to say it'll take you a couple hours, for other folks, that's 15 minutes. For maybe even some, that's 4 hours. So really don't say too much in time unless it is a very super fast pattern. Other than that, we'll just talk steps. Now, as far as did I sew them in order of the instructions, I did, with the exception of the hems. As I mentioned in a previous video, when it comes to the arms or the sleeves and the bottom hems or the pants, skirt, shorts, hems, I'll usually stitch up one seam and then press the hem in, just so I already have that ready for when I'm finished with the garment and at the hem stage. So I did go out of order just a little bit there, but other than that, I did go in order and the instructions were fairly clear. As far as difficulty, I'll give this a 3 out of 5. And the reason I'm giving it 3 out of 5 is because it has an invisible zipper. It also has facings. So, you know, that in and of itself can just be something to, you know, get your mind wrapped around. And then because it also has this V-neck here, you know, if you off just a little bit, it will certainly show in the garment. So that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5. The techniques in and of themselves aren't difficult. It's just a matter of making sure everything lines up properly. Now, the great thing about this pattern is there are some sew-alongs or sew-with-me's out there. Actually, Bridget J. Jones did a sew-along for this. So a link to that video is in the description box if you want to check that out. I use both the written instructions as well as videos when I'm sewing up a garment if, you know, a video is available. So you have the best of both worlds. So I'll link that in the description box below. As far as overall experience, I give this a 4 out of 5. The only reason I give it a 4 out of 5 is just because of that difficulty and making sure that you take some time around the zipper and the facings and all of that to make sure those are okay. So it's not so much of it was a bad pattern. It's just because of the type of steps that you have to do, making sure that you get those in sync. The other reason why I give it a 4 and not a 5 is because I thought I pretty much had my my sizing spot on. However, and it may be, you know, my body and not necessarily the pattern, but I do still feel like it came out a bit bigger than I wanted it to. I want to say I sized down, and I can't remember now. I put it on the screen whether I did sew up a large or a medium, but I felt I went just as close to my body measurements as possible, still taking in consideration that one, I need to get in and out of this jumpsuit, even with the zipper, you know, get in and out of it fairly easily. As well as with the jumpsuit, you want to have enough room in the crotch area because it's one long piece to be able to bend over and move around and not have anything tight or, you know, restricting in that nature. So that's why I'm kind of giving it a 4 and not necessarily a 5. So overall, I still recommend this pattern to others. It's, you know, fairly simple to sew, just a few things to be mindful of as you're sewing them. So that's the jumpsuit. Now, the other piece of that, and you're going to see it in the pictures if I haven't already shown them, is actually I wanted to make this jumpsuit knowing full well that we are like driving 90 miles an hour into fall. And so I wouldn't be able to get a lot of wear out of this as is. One, because, you know, there's a lot of exposure here in the chest and neck area, as well as because I didn't use the full length or the ankle length that, you know, my ankles would get cold. And so I wanted to have a sort of fall look or be able to adapt this to a fall look. And so what I did was pair this with New Look 6740. This is one of their new patterns. You probably saw it and zeroed in on the dresses, and I zeroed in on the dickey. I had been looking for a dickey pattern for a while, and I was racking my brain because I knew I had just saw one, and I'm like, I can't find it on McCalls. I can't find it in Simplicity. Like, where was this thing? So I happened to be in the store and was like, well, let me just check, you know, New Look again, see if there was anything I wanted. And my eye went immediately to this envelope, and I grabbed it just as soon as I saw it. So I now am so happy to have this dickey pattern. Now you're probably saying, girl, you can make a dickey out of just about anything, and you are not wrong. But I just wanted a pattern that was specifically for a dickey. The dresses are cute, and I will more than likely make those dresses at some point in the future, but for right now it's all about the dickey. So I did make up this dickey, which is view C of this pattern. So in terms of sizing, this pattern comes in a 6'2" and 18, and they only give the bust measurements on the backside of the pattern envelope, which is fine because for the dickey that's pretty much all you need, but you really don't even need that. But the bust measurements they give for finished garment measurements are a bust size of 50.5 to 41 inches. So pretty wide range there. You can certainly make this as wide as you need to. It's a dickey, so you can just measure out your shoulder, and if you need to go wider than that, you certainly can. No harm, no foul there. As far as fabrics, this is designed for a knit fabric. It's supposed to be a turtleneck, so it's going to have to get over your head and then be able to, I guess, go back to its original shape at your neck. So you definitely want something with some good recovery in your fabric. I think mine had about 10%. Well, mine is the one that I use is a polyester nylon, and it's a bit hot and a bit tight. So perhaps not going with that one. I don't recommend that one unless you just really like that look or like that feel, then it's perfect. But I would say anything from a 5% maybe to a 10% at the very most, because again, you don't want it to be constricting. I took it off for this video because I didn't want to pass out for the gram or for YouTube. But you want something that has some good recovery to it, not just the stretch. In terms of pattern pieces, for this dicky, you only need 3 pattern pieces. Obviously, the front and the back are cut on a fold, and then you actually have the neck area. So just 3 pieces, very simple to put together. As far as steps, there are just 6 steps in the pattern to complete the dicky. Now, if you've ever put a shirt together with any type of collar, you won't even need to look at it, because basically it's, put the shoulders together and then, stretch and stitch the neck area or the neckband in. The additional steps just talk about to press and stitch the hem all the way around. You can certainly do that. If you have an overlocker, you can just overlock the whole thing around and be done with it. And then it also recommends that you stitch down the seam allowance where you've connected the neck and the front and the back. So that's optional depending on, again, if you want to do that single stitch or with the twin needle, or you can just eliminate that altogether. So really up to you. A total of 6 steps, but you can probably get away with less than that. As far as order of instructions, yes, I pretty much did them in order of the instructions. The instructions were very clear. There are 6 steps. It is not difficult at all. Now, as far as difficulty, again, giving this a 1 out of 5. Only because it is knit, and so, to avoid any pinching or puckering, you just want to take your time around that. As far as the overall experience, I give it a 5 out of 5. Simple to put together, not a lot of time, 6 simple steps. However, I will recommend to every single person that wants to sew View C is to extend at least the front, perhaps the back, but at least the front by anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 or more inches. Because I sewed up a size 18. I wanted to get a feel as to, how tight around the neck basically and how big it would come out. And while the neck and the width in terms of neck to shoulder was fine, from neck to chest, it came out really, really short. And I would imagine for anyone that has a fuller bust, you're going to want to put some extension on that dicky. If you have a deep V like, this jumpsuit has, you're going to want to extend it, a couple of inches, if not more, just so you can get full coverage. Which is also great because, one, it gives you that double layering. So obviously we're doing this for fall and winter, so it just helps to provide more coverage up top. And then you can certainly wear it even with some deeper V sweaters, that's trendy or whatnot. So you can get a lot of use out of it, but definitely extend that dicky length from neck to chest a good 2, maybe even 3 inches. Now, I also like it because you can, we'll say 99%, but 100% complete this on a serger. If you leave out the recommendation of doing that final seam stitch down around the collar, because, putting the shoulders, the front and backs together on the shoulders, stitching together the front and back to the collar, and then if you have, a serger, actually just cover stitching around the edges. If you want to do that, most knits don't fray. You probably wouldn't have a problem with that. But if you just wanted to give a nice polished look or professional look around the hem or the edges of the dickey, then you can serge around there. So you can 100% do this on your serger, or at the very least 99%. So all in all, I do recommend this new look 6740 view C for the dickey, with the caveat of extending it just a few inches there to give more coverage up front. So tell me what you think about the McCalls jumpsuit, about the new look dickey. Are you into dickies? Did you used to wear them as a child? Have you worn them all your life? Put some comments down below and let me know your thoughts and experience. I thoroughly enjoyed this jumpsuit. I look forward to wearing it more and more. I really like the print of this fabric, so it's going to be really fun to get out and wear this to, various events or just on my weekly errands. And now that I have something that I can really help, that will really help transition me into the fall, I'll be able to extend the wearability of this throughout this year. Thanks so much for walking through life with me on this sewing journey, and I'll see you next time. Bye.